So what did they do? Well, in this situation, as with most situations that an environmental health officer, you try the informal approach first. And this is in line with the enforcement approach that you're supposed to take, the regulator's code, which all local authorities are bound by. So you try, unless you've got a serious risk to health, you try the enforcement or a serious breach, then you consider the informal option first. And in this case, the landlord had brought you into the property, they were showing you around, they were trying to get your advice, they were showing every signs of being cooperative. And given that this was in a detached garage outside of the property, it wasn't posing much of a risk to health, but there was still a risk to health there. What was more uncomfortable discussion, so what happened then is that the landlord then had a rather uncomfortable discussion. Then he sat down the four people sharing the house and said somebody appears to have defecated in the garage. And so we would ask we'll give you a bit of time and ask if you try and sort that out between yourselves prior to when we have our departure meeting. And when they came around to do their departure meeting, lo and behold, the carpet and its contents had been removed. And so that resolved the problem. So you don't always have to serve a notice. Other options, other common sources of using a filthy and verminous items notice is when people fly tip things like, it's dumping things like old furniture, particularly sofas and mattresses. And when they put these on some land, then if they are on public land, publicly owned land, for instance the pavement outside a house or on a public highway, then the council has the responsibility for them and they've got to take them away. And so they've got a service which comes round and picks up large items like this and carries them away. So you just need to ring the council central switchboard and get yourself put through to them, and you can deal with it with a quick mobile phone call and a few days wait. If you've got fly tipped or dumped items and they're on private land, then unfortunately for the person who owns the land, they're responsible for doing all of the clear up. And so this can become a real nuisance if you've got larger landowners that own particularly land in rural locations, such as farmers, who end up having to clear up quite a lot of fly tipped waste at their own cost. But if you are involved with this, very commonly you'll get this in urban areas, in back lanes or on disused land, and so you've got to do a bit of a dig around in the land registry, which it costs about £2 to £4 for a search for the owner of a piece of land, and you can find out their last known address. Sometimes it requires a bit of digging around to track them down. But once you've got their details, and you might have to ask a few of the neighbours to get them, the most helpful people in these situations are people who've been living in the street for quite a long while, particularly elderly residents who tend to have quite a good working knowledge of who owns which bits of the land surrounding them. And so you'd serve the notice, and the reason you might be asking is, why is a fly tip sofa or a mattress filthy and verminous item? Well, it certainly get filthy over time, but the thing is whether it's providing harbourage, a home for pests to live in. And so it's less insect pests, it's more rats and mice that you get living in discarded mattresses and sofas. And there's actually an episode of the TV show Friends in which they talk about in which they show you exactly that problem with an armchair. And so when they make ideal homes, lovely shelters for rats and mice, but because we're always trying to keep populations of rats and mice down because they carry a range of human diseases, then we will always be trying to keep tabs on these issues and trying to get rid of them. It's something that we tend to do reactively rather than proactively, and so wait until you get a complaint coming through. If you get an accumulation of waste, then you can use a Prevention of Damage from Pests Act or noxious matter notice, but if it's just individual items, you can use this filthy and verminous items notice.